Welcome back to another episode of In 10 Years Time podcast, me, you and Blake Quay, where we talk to young and upcoming athletes about what they want to achieve in their careers, where they see themselves in 10 years time, obviously, at the end. So today with me, we've got 20-year-olds. You're 20, right? That's right.
Yeah, 20, yeah.
Right back, Wolves, may know him from being the youngest debutant ever for Rochdale, scored against Man United in the FA Cup a few years ago.
High into the penalty area, and it's Matheson! Can you believe it? Luke Matheson, 7 days short.
So I'll just get started. Luke Matheson, by the way, I forgot to introduce you. But I'll start, Luke, by asking, obviously you're born in Fallowfield, Manchester. Have you got any siblings?
Yeah, one younger sister.
Yeah, and is she into sports or football or anything?
Not in her personal life, no. It's only really through me, if she even bothers at times.
Oh, okay, fair. So were you when you were growing up, when in your family, were you the only one that was interested in football? Was it a thing passed down from your dad or your mum or something?
Yeah. So from a main, taking part in sport, it was only really myself that did it. Hannah, my sister, she did little things, gymnastics, until she was about 12, 13 years old on the side, but it was never something that really kicked on for her. The football side of things for myself, it was this little camp called Little Sports that I used to go to on half terms when I was really, really, really young. Yeah, I think that was the way of just me mum and dad getting me out of the house because they didn't want me in there during a half term. So that was just this little camp. You went all day over half terms and stuff, and any type of sport you could think of, we did that. Nice. And then from there, I ended up, getting scouted. This was about 8 years old, getting scouted for their grassroots teams called FC Sports. Mm-hmm. And then from there, my coach at under nines there was a scout for Rochdale who scouted me. I went on trial at Rochdale, and then the rest was kind of history type thing.
Cool. So what were you when you said your parents tried to get you out of the house? Were you a little? Did they find you a bit annoying then when you were little or something? Or?
I think I was just that kid that was always everywhere type thing. So my mum would put me down for a second, and next thing you know, I'd be climbing the couch. I've just always been active doing something. So I think they just needed that kind of little break from me, just keeping them on their toes all the time.
Fair. So when I was looking you up, I saw that you went to Trinity Church of England High School, and you went there for sixth form as well.
Yeah.
So before we go, whether you enjoyed it and stuff, when you were there, did you always want to be a footballer? Was that what you always wanted to be? Was there anything else that you were particularly interested in at school?
I wouldn't say there was another be all and end all for me. I've always, every little boy dreams of being a footballer. I've always said that from the start. And I'm so lucky to be where I am, because anyone my age would love to do what I do. But I wouldn't say it was, something that was the be all and end all for me, whether I made it or not. But then at the same time, I don't think there was a dead set specific secondary option at the same time for myself. Like I said, I went to sixth form as well, so I did my A levels and my GCSEs and everything because my parents really pushed me to do that, to have that backup plan just in case, because football is not a guarantee in any way, shape, or form for a source of income over a longer period of time, especially because they're such short careers as well. That's if you make it that far, touch wood. So my parents kind of really pushed me to do A levels just so I had that, that secondary backup plan just in case. And thankfully it didn't. The football didn't fully work out for me.
Before we I'll ask you about before after the goal against Man United, because I know obviously things changed a bit after that. But before then, how did you enjoy school growing up? Was it anything bad happen, or did you just enjoy it?
Oh no, I absolutely love school. I loved seeing my friends all day, every day. I loved learning. I loved all the extracurricular activities. If there was something on offer for us to do, I'd always do it. I always say if I could go back to school, and I'd do it in a heartbeat.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, I absolutely love school. Looking back at all the memories, the people I met in year 7 are still my best friends to this very day. We speak every day. So that type of thing, I just love seeing them every day, doing everything. I absolutely adored school.
And obviously you've got like, I saw that you're from an early age. I think your mum like let your hair grow long and you just stuck with it ever since. And I also saw that when you're in school, sometimes some of the maybe a couple of the lads will like pick on you. Did you actually like get properly like, I mean obviously you sound like you had a great time in school, so I'm guessing you didn't, but did you ever get made fun of because of that or anything else in school?
Nah, I wouldn't say I specifically got made fun of or anything like that. I was just always the one who had long hair. That's how I was always recognised.
All right.
Yeah, so it was always just, friendly banter between groups of lads. It was never anything serious or anything that genuinely upset me.
Because when I was in school, like often the kids that would be good at sports or whatever, they'd be considered like the cool kids, if you know what I mean. So I just wondered whether it was like that in your school, or was it like, because I spoke to a swimmer the other day and he told me when he was in high school, he was quite good at a couple of sports, but he felt like under pressure all the time, like he had a target on his back and that people would like be on him because people were jealous of him and stuff. So I don't know how did you find it being the one good at football?
So like you said, I wasn't the only one in that specific situation. Obviously I'm kind of the only one from my school, from my year, who kind of really progressed to the professional level of football. There was another lad who was coming through at Bury, and one of my best friends as well, still to this day, played for Bury as well at the time. So I wasn't in complete isolation in that aspect of things. Obviously, yeah, people may have been jealous and stuff like that, but it never ever showed. Like, it never ever showed. I always say this, I'm so lucky for the people I have around me, friends, teachers, things like that. Jealousy never ever ever showed. And wasn't the person to flaunt around school. I went to every lesson, turned up on time. I just wanted to be a normal kid in school, to be honest with you. I didn't want to be this big footballer. I wasn't this big footballer at the time. I was just a normal kid who happened to play for an academy at the time.
And I also saw that you did, so when you're playing football for Rochdale, you actually did like extra hours at school just to like catch up and stuff. So I just wanted to ask, like, what's it like being totally, obviously I know after the United game, a few weeks after that, you signed your professional contract, but before then, obviously you're playing for Rochdale, but then you're also at school. So I just wanted to know, like, what's like when you're not completely sure of knowing where you're heading, like, obviously in your heart, oh, I'm in Rochdale, I play for Rochdale, I'm really close to getting this footballing thing, doing this footballing thing. But then you're like, oh, well, what happens if it doesn't go through? What happens if, I've got to fall back on this? So is that why you did extra hours at school and why you took it quite so seriously?
So the extra hours at school kind of thing was just me and like the teachers and sort of stuff kind of like made like I was very close with the teachers, all the way up from teachers just that taught me maths, English, to my form tutor, to head of year, all the way up to the head teacher. Every single person was absolutely brilliant with me. So we sat down quite a bit actually, me and specific, teachers and stuff like that, and we actually kind of made like a deal type thing. So we always said that I'd miss games, like on a Tuesday when I was like in year 9, year 10 type thing, to play games for the youth team and stuff like that. So I'd go in the morning, I might miss the afternoon or something like that. And we always said that I would, the second my schoolwork started to fall behind where it should be, was the second would be able to stop playing football. And that was pushed on my part and their part just to keep me pushing forward with the education. So we always just wanted to make sure that, because I know how important education is, that's why I've continued to do it up until how old I am now. So it was always just something to keep pushing to make sure that, like you said, football is in no way, shape or form a guarantee. And at this point, I was still a 14-year-old kid. So I was far, far from the professional game and actually making it as a professional footballer. So to have that support around me that really, really pushed me and made me strive to be the best that I could possibly be really helped me to just succeed in football as well, doing all that.
Obviously, like, you're 20 now, or I'm 20, and I'm in uni at the moment. I've been for the past 3 years. Obviously you couldn't do that because of your footballing, but I know some athletes, they like, oh no, I always want to go to uni, do the uni experience, whatever that may be. Did you ever really want to go to uni at some point, or would you feel like, or now that you're not, do you feel like you're missing out, or does it just not bother you?
In some ways, yes, in some ways, no. So obviously, like, you kind of like, when you start coming towards the middle of your college career and stuff like that, so that's when you start kind of thinking about uni, thinking about long term. Whereas as soon as I left high school, I was straight into first team with Rochdale. Like, I didn't really have time to think about that. So I kind of, from that point forwards, I kind of was like, okay, football, this is what I'm going to do. This is what I want to do. So I wouldn't say it was something I generally thought about doing in the future type thing. Whereas missing out, sometimes, obviously, I've never drunk in my life. So that side of things doesn't really, appeal to me, and doesn't appeal to me in that aspect. But from a missing out perspective, the only thing that I really miss out on is my friends. Like that close group I mentioned, they're all across the country. 3 of them live together in Leeds now. One's in London, one's in Sheffield. That's really the only thing that I miss out on is, they might all be able to get together on a weekend type thing. They all went down to London the other week. I couldn't go, obviously, because we have training and games and stuff. So that's really the only thing that I really, really miss out on. But at the same time, it's always worth it. Like, that's just part of the game.
Yeah. So so does that affect you, do you think, much mentally? I'm guessing it probably did when you first started, but now maybe you're more used to it. Like, how do you, so it doesn't really bother you now, the whole friends thing?
I think the hardest part was at the very start. So obviously they all went to college. So they all went to college in Manchester. 5 of them together and 1 of them not. So they were all still seeing each other literally every single day. And then that's about the time halfway through that first year is when I moved up to Wolves. So I was the only one who moved away. So I think that initial movement away from them was the hardest at the start. But now it's kind of, I'm not isolated on my own, being the only one that's not with everyone, whereas everyone's everywhere now. So I think as we've matured, as we've got older, we still speak every single day in the group chat about whatever's going on, football, whatever games on, whatever people are doing. It's not like we've lost contact or anything like that. We still speak as much as we did back in the day. It's just we don't get to see each other as much.
Right.
So I think it was initially something that I struggled with and was hard, but now I'm used to it, and getting to know lads here at football. Some of us live in the same apartment building and stuff, so it's not like we don't have things to do at the same time, where we just sit on the couches thinking about stuff and stuff like that.
When you talk about your group of close mates that you have, I read some of that, like, after the a couple of years ago, when you signed your professional contract, like, even though you're earning, not terrible money, but even when you like went out to Nando's or something, they'd still pay for like their stuff or whatever, even though you offered. Has that dynamic has it always been like that then, that dynamic with your mates, even since becoming a professional footballer?
Yeah, I will always say this. There's a group of 7 of us, including myself, and the things they do for me and the things I owe them so much in everything. Yeah, and I'm so fortunate I'm able to have that close knit group of friends. Like some people, like a fan or something, might see me as Luke Matheson. These guys have always just seen me as Luke, as just a normal kid who they're friends with. They don't leech off me. They don't ask for anything ever. Like you said with the Nando sort of stuff, they would never let me pay for. So obviously I was the only one who was actually earning at the time, because they were still in college type thing. So I was like helping them, offering to help out and buy, just a simple, like £20 Nando's meal, once a month or something like that. They just wouldn't allow it. Even times when I would pay for it without them knowing, I'd find like £20 notes in the glove box of my car. So they would just never ever leech off me or anything like that. Like buying concert tickets and stuff, I might be the one to buy concert tickets. The money comes back when they say they're going to pay me on payday, that type of thing. It's never a case of I'm different to them. We're all just 20-year-old kids going through this life thing together.
Yeah.
And I'm so grateful for the dynamic that we have, and I'm forever grateful for each and every single one of them.
Yeah. And I suppose it's good as well because you can actually measure, like, if you do meet someone new or try and make new friends, you can see if they're like real, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
If you've got that
Yeah.
tight knit group, then well, they're going to be there for me 100%. And if someone else comes up to you and try and get to know them, and you're like, well, you're not going to, and they're like, oh yeah, can you just help me like pay for this taxi or something, or oh yeah, can you help me pay for that? Then you know for a fact that they're not really there to be your friend.
100%. Like I said, I've got that basis to base things off of now. So I know if, I'm not saying people have done this to me in any way, shape or form, but I would almost be able to tell and recognize because I'm just like, I'm looking over there because they're all on the wall there. I'm just so grateful for every one of them.
So after I know I'm going to be going back to this a lot, so sorry if it gets a bit annoying. But after the United game when you scored, I saw when you went back to school the next day, and then you had like loads of like year sevens and stuff coming up to ask for your autograph and stuff on their planners and whatever. And then I also saw that like your Instagram following grew from 2,000 to 18,000 followers. Did you ever feel, because I've asked a couple of athletes on here that they, when people sing their praises and that, they feel a little bit like awkward sometimes, or, a bit flattered when people praise them or something good happens to them. So yeah, have you ever felt embarrassed or awkward when people like sing your praises and stuff?
Yeah, to some degree, yeah. I'm not the best person at taking compliments in the world.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say, it's always nice to receive praise and recognition for what you do.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I do it because I want to do it. I don't do things because I want that recognition, that validation, that praise from someone else. It's like the little things. I'm never gonna do an extra gym session because I want to be the coach to say in front of everyone, oh, look at him, he's doing extra gym sessions. I want to do that extra session for me. I think for my own personal benefit, my own personal praise, rather than that external praise from other people.
Yeah. You say now that you're living in an apartment, but when you first went to Wolves, before you went out on loan, were you like living in? Because I know some clubs have these. They have like hotels and stuff.
Yeah.
So did you live in like a Wolves hotel then? And if you did, like before you went, after you came back from your loan spell at Rochdale, like what was that like living in a hotel?
So obviously, like when I first moved to Wolves, that was right before the COVID hit. So I kind of didn't know when, because I went straight back on loan to Rochdale after I signed. So I didn't know when the League One season was going to start, when it was going to end. So then when it, excuse me, when it did finally end, and then Wolves brought me in for pre-season, things weren't really opening up again. Things hadn't really fully opened up from COVID yet. So I couldn't find anywhere to move myself in permanently down here. So then Wolves did put me and a few other lads in the hotel because like they couldn't go into digs and things like that. So it wasn't a Wolves hotel. It was just a hotel that a couple of us stayed in for a couple of weeks so we could find somewhere to stay type thing.
And so now you're living in, I mean, it looks like a nice apartment from your thing. So, and you said there's a couple of other Wolves, the academy players there. Did Wolves help you find that place to live, and have they helped you like settle into Wolverhampton?
Yeah, definitely. Wolves have been absolutely brilliant with this place. So obviously, I think a lot of the apartments Wolves actually own, so we just rent it through them, type thing. If I wanted to move on, if I went on loan, that's why it's really good for us. So say if we went on loan in January, there's no contract type things that we're tied down to. So we're paying for two places, one here and wherever we go on loan. So if we went on loan in January, that's where we stop paying for this place and they could put another player in. Type things. I think there's about 8 or 9 of us who live in this actual whole apartment building.
Right.
So yeah, Wolves have just sorted all that out for us. We just asked if anywhere they could put us, and then there's apartments here and some across another building. So they've been brilliant with all that. Yeah.
Obviously, when you came back from Rochdale on loan, and I think you stayed with Wolves for the first half of the next season of the 2020-21 season. And then you went on loan to Ipswich first, wasn't it? Then you went up to Scotland, and then you went to Scunthorpe last year. I just want to ask, like, obviously a lot of like academy players do that when they go to a big club, they'll go out on loan to lower leagues or different leagues or whatever. Like, what's that like moving so often from city to city or from town to town, and sometimes in this case from country to country because you went up to Scotland?
Yeah. Obviously it is hard, like leaving everything behind in like a day. So like Ipswich, I got the call on the Wednesday. I was traveling down the Thursday, trained Friday, started Saturday. So
Bloody hell.
so things happen like that. Like you don't have time. That's probably a beneficial aspect of it, is you don't have time to think about it and
Yeah.
actually really, go into depth of what's happened. It's kind of like, all right, this is happening.
Yeah.
I'm on that type thing. And then football club's brilliant at sorting things out. So, I had a hotel the next night to stay in Ipswich. I had my own place a week and a half later type thing. So it's really not something you actually have time to think about until you're actually there. The lads everywhere I've been, the lads have been brilliant, welcoming me into the squad and the new environments and stuff. So you kind of you do just get used to it at the same time, to be honest with you.
When you went up to Hamilton, obviously I think that's from my memory, that's not too far from Glasgow. So what was that like living up in Scotland? Because I bet you when you were little, you never thought you'd live up that far north. So like, what was that like?
Well, first of all, it was freezing all the time because it was a winter loan as well. So it was absolutely freezing. And it was difficult at the start because there was just nowhere for me to stay. So I was in a hotel for about 7.5 weeks, initially off the loan until I actually found somewhere. It was literally in the middle of nowhere, probably about 25, 30 minutes from Glasgow itself. So I was in the middle of nowhere. It was just one little house with a couple of others around it. So that was about it. That was probably my hardest loan. In terms of settling in type thing, just because I was not near anything. I'd literally just left everything, all my friend group behind in the summer type thing. So that was probably the hardest one from that aspect of things.
Yeah. I saw somewhere that you said that your parents have helped you loads. So yeah, before I get to your mum, I'm just wondering, like, what's your how supportive has like your dad been?
I can't put it into words what my parents have done for me. Like my dad, he'd finish work. He used to teach. He would finish work, 4 o'clock on the days I'd have training. Pick me up from after school club. We go straight to training. We'd be there by 5, not a minute late, never late, nothing like that. We'd sit in the car, marking papers, grading papers from other kids. Like he just did everything for me, and he still does. I know if I ever need anything, I just have to pick up the phone, text him, and anything, and he'll be there. Like when I needed surgery in December, he's driving me to London. Just things like that. When I need surgery in February, he's driving me to Manchester, coming to pick me up, so I don't have to worry about the driving, the traveling type thing. I can just solely focus on the football aspect of him. I can't say enough. I can't thank him enough for what he's done for me. I wouldn't be where I am today if it wasn't for him.
I thought because I saw something that your dad was like very like supportive and protective of you and stuff. Onto your mum, I read somewhere when she actually went to the United game and she watched you, and that was her first game back after she was like she wasn't very well. If you don't mind me asking, like, what was her illness? Because I believe she's okay now.
She's doing absolutely brilliant now. So basically, long story short, was when I was in year 11 and I got my first England call up in February. Obviously, mum, dad, and Hannah, sister, they all wanted to come down and stuff to support me. As a family would do when you're representing your country the first time. Then the night before, I mean, my debut versus France, my mum got really, really ill type thing. Mum, dad and Hannah had to rush her to the hospital, and she ended up having to have like an emergency operation where she got a third of her bowel removed and stuff like that.
Right. Okay.
So she was really, really ill. I had to obviously fly back with England and stuff, do my GCSEs and stay with friends and stuff. While they had to stay, because she couldn't fly, they had to stay in Spain for about a month, just over a month, while she recovered. And then, it's a bit, like I said, that was February. Then it was a long road to recovery. And then I'm so grateful that she got to come to that United game. That was the first game since the illness, obviously.
So you didn't see her for like weeks then, if she was in Spain getting...
I didn't see her since I left took off before. Obviously I took off left to England camp at St. George and stuff. That's the last time I seen her. Wow. Until she came back for about a month later. And mum, dad, and then obviously I saw my dad and Hannah at the France game because my mum really, they didn't want them to miss that. So they came that England debut and stuff. My dad literally just burst into tears when he saw me after the game. So obviously that was a really, really emotional time for us as a family. But yeah, she's absolutely. I'm so proud of her. She's doing amazing now. Yeah.
Wow, that's good to hear, because when I was younger, my mum was ill and like problems with bowels as well. So yeah, it's good. It's good to have a healthy mum around, definitely.
Oh, yeah, it's brilliant. Yeah.
Yeah. So moving on to like your like footballing journey now and stuff. You started at football so young. Went to Rochdale when you said when you were 8 years old, and then you made your professional debut at just the age of 15. Rochdale's like youngest debutant ever. What's that like? Like, how do you feel it's impacted your career and your playing style, or your performances, just being chucked straight into senior football like that? Because obviously some clubs, they go from age group to age group. They'll make it to the under-21s, and then after the under-21s, and they'll slowly get integrated into the senior scene. Whereas you're 15, bang, they've chucked you straight in there, and you played loads of games to them. So yeah, just wondering your thoughts on that.
I think it like helped me mature earlier, because like I said, people don't necessarily realize this, but people's lives are on the line season from season in League One and League Two. Players, football is not a guarantee. Players don't have a contract every single year, so being a part of that at 15, like you said, 15, 16, where people's careers, people's lifestyles, people's families, if a club gets relegated, your wages might get cut in half as part of your contract. You might just get released and not have anywhere to go. So being trusted to be, part of the 11 that's involved in that, I had to mature straight away. I couldn't be a kid. I couldn't learn the game as I went. And people just took me under the wing. I've always said that I'm not where I am today solely because of me. I'm here because of the people that have helped me on the way, and I'm forever grateful to every single one of them. But yeah, you definitely had to mature earlier to be a part of, a team. It was never just me. It was always just Rochdale.
And I also saw you said that you had to do all like the usual affiliated like apprentice jobs at Rochdale, like cleaning the boots and all that stuff. How much do you think that helped you like humble yourself and become a bit more grounded? Because speaking to you now, you seem quite grounded for a high level footballer. And also like, do you think all clubs should do that? Because I mean, I imagine like clubs like, I don't know, Real Madrid, or maybe they do, I don't know, or Man United, they might not necessarily get their academy kids to wash their boots or wash the senior guys' boots or whatever. So yeah.
Yeah, like I said, that never bothered me. That's just the way things were. That's just the way it was in football clubs. That's just how it had been for years and years and years. So why was I going to be any different than anyone else? The only thing regarding that I actually really, really disliked was when I obviously signed my pro and became a part of it, like officially part of Rochdale's first team squad. Someone had to wash my boots, if that makes sense. I was a 16-year-old kid playing in the first team, and someone had to wash my boots, which I really, really didn't like. But that was the gaffer's way. That was the Rochdale way. There was nothing I could do about it.
Yeah.
That's the only thing that really I didn't like, was that someone, potentially older than me, because I was so young, was cleaning my boots, and that just didn't sit right with me. That's the only thing that really bothered me with that.
So obviously 2019 you scored your goal against United at Old Trafford, and then you signed your pro contract a few weeks later. Like, what was that feeling like, signing your first professional contract? Also, you said you dreamed of being a footballer. Loads of like lads and girls dream of being a professional footballer. Was it like a sense of relief, like, oh, thank God I've actually got this? Or was it like a shock, like, even though you've been playing League One football, professional football then, was it like, oh my God, like this is actually for real now?
Yeah, it's never something that I actually expected to happen. So, like I've said, I've always said, being able to go to Portugal with Rochdale that pre-season, I never ever dreamed of that happening. Starting against United, I never ever dreamed of that happening. Like it's not something where it's like tick, 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 tick. You have to go along these things in my mind that I needed to do. Things kind of just happened because of how I acted and what I did. So it was like a moment where I was like, damn, I'm actually a professional footballer now. Like that's when it was like officially, because obviously I'd played loads of games before that and even scored and got an assist before that. So it was kind of just like, this is now when it's kind of like official, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that must be a great feeling, because I know some of us like seeing a professional, even like just like seeing a contract that you think, oh my god, like this is actually proper now.
Yeah.
When you got signed by Wolves in January, you got signed for £1 million. Like, I've always like wanted to know this and ask footballers. It's like, what do you think of being at that? What do you feel like being worth that amount of money? Like, is that like that must be like a really weird feeling, like someone's paid for me £1 million. That's 7 figures. That's loads of money. Like, what does that even feel like?
Yeah, when you put it like that, it is kind of crazy. But that to me is not that's what other people value me, if that makes sense. That's
Right.
not my actual value, if that makes sense in my head. So that might be what Wolves' value is of me is, I don't know what another club is, what another club here, there. Everyone has their opinions, everyone has their different things. That's just one specific instance of evaluation from a specific club, if that makes sense. But when you do put it like that, yeah, it is, that's a lot of money. So when you put it like that, it does make you feel valuable, if that makes sense. And it almost makes you want to, it's almost pressure, but it's not pressure at the same time. It's just you have this number put against you, that's there forever, whether I want it or not. That just means that it's part of me, and I have to prove that that's part of me, and that Wolves made the right decision at paying whatever they chose to pay.
Yeah, I just always want to say that, like, it's just, to me, if I was paid, like, if you see it on TV or something, like £1 million, I just think that's so weird. Like, it's just weird.
Yeah.
So obviously you played for England under 17s and under 18s. What I just wanted to know, like, what's the camaraderie like when you came into those camps? Like, 'cause obviously you're playing with lots of other lads that are playing up and down the country. In some cases might have been playing abroad. Like, what's that like when you're in together for like a couple of days and you have to gel with each other and then play in in a couple of days? Like, what's that like? Like, did you all get along fine?
Yeah, no, everyone was top. Everyone was great. The only thing that was like kind of difficult was obviously I was the only one from Rochdale, whereas a lot of these kids and guys were from United City, Arsenal, Chelsea. So they all knew each other and had relationships already, where I was kind of like the newbie coming in, from little old Rochdale type thing. That was the only thing that was hard and difficult. Everyone was dead welcome. Everyone was great. I still talk to some of them to this day. So yeah, they were all top lads. Yeah.
Nice. I saw I don't know, the website Transfermarkt or Transfer Market, I don't know how you say it.
Yeah.
It said, when I clicked on your profile, it said that you're also eligible to play for Scotland. Is that right? Could you play for Scotland if you wanted to?
I've heard this, but I don't actually know how it all works. And specifically, I think it's my great granddad that was Scottish, and obviously Matheson's a Scottish name.
Yeah.
So I think that's how that works, but I don't know if that has any truth to it or anything.
Yeah. Well, I was going to ask you, like, would you ever consider playing for Scotland? But I'm guessing that's a no, because you obviously.
I don't know if I actually can. So.
Yeah, you don't even know if you are. So yeah, it'd be pretty weird if they asked you and you're like, wait, what? I am Scottish. What? Okay. Yeah. I don't blame you. When you went on loan to Ipswich and Hamilton, obviously you've been on loan to Scunthorpe as well, and you work with Keith Hill there, your old boss at Rochdale. And I think I'm right in saying that your loan spell at Scunthorpe was not that bad, right? It was pretty.
Yeah, it was from some aspects.
Obviously, Ipswich and Hamilton, perhaps you didn't get as much playing time as initially you would have wanted. Is that fair to say? And if it is, why didn't those? Obviously, you said a bit about why Hamilton didn't work out, because they literally stuck you out in the middle of nowhere. But with Ipswich, like, why didn't it work? 100%?
Yeah. So I don't actually think a lot of people know this, but I actually tore my LCL. That's
okay.
So I started. Obviously, Paul Lambert was the manager at the time. I started my first. It was 2 out of the first 3 games there. And then obviously the change of manager happened where Paul Cook came in, and this was about a month into the loan, in his first training session. or second training session, I tore my LCL, so that was me out for the season. So yeah, obviously went back to Wolves straight away, rehab there and stuff. So that was about a 3.5, 4 month rehab. So yeah, that's why I didn't really play at Ipswich, because I tore my knee.
So when you did eventually train with Wolves for a bit, I think it was just before you went on loan to Ipswich. Is that right? Yeah. So what was that like, training with like the Wolves academy boy or the Wolves first team compared to Rochdale training and that kind of stuff?
So yeah, obviously it was a lot more advanced, as you can imagine, a Premier League club in comparison to a League One club.
Yeah.
So like the under 18s and stuff had more staff than Rochdale have as an entire club type thing. So there's just more of everything. I would never have dreamed of, like needing a nutritionist, but then Wolves have a nutritionist employed. So it's like little things like that. It's just more advanced off the pitch, I'd say. On the pitch, it's not too dissimilar. Obviously, the caliber of player then goes up when you're training with the likes of Dam Traore, Jimenez, Neves type thing, in comparison to Rochdale. But aside from that, it's still football, and coaches try to make it as simple for us as they can. That will always be what they try and do for us. So in that aspect, it's not too dissimilar from Rochdale.
And when you mentioned like your injury before, like I'm guessing like how much did Wolves? I'm guessing Wolves must have helped loads of that. So would you say like they've looked? Obviously, you mentioned that they helped you out with the apartments and stuff. So did they like help you loads with like really your recovery from injury? Your mental health as well. Have they helped a lot with that as well?
Yeah. Wolves were brilliant with the injury. As soon as it happened on the day, I had a scan the next day, the local Nuffield, to get an MRI. That then got reported back to Wolves. The physio called me up saying that I'd torn it, and I was coming back to Wolves for rehab. And then every single day you have a program, and it's not obviously like now I've done my hamstring. It's not too dissimilar from that. You have a daily program with the physio. You have a check-in in the morning. He notes down on his notepad everything, and you have a program that gets updated weekly. There's always someone with you taking over your rehab, taking what you need to do. So you're never left on your own. I'm sure that's the same at every single football club. To be honest with you, not just the big Premier League ones as well.
Okay. And so like, do you still like feel like a little niggle like in your ACL from time to time since then, or have you like it's like completely recovered now? Like you feel like you were back how you were back before it?
It was my LCL, sorry.
LCL.
Yeah, and nah, I can't feel it at all. So obviously the rehab's gone swimmingly, and I've fully recovered from that injury.
That's good. When you did do some training with the Wolves first team, like you mentioned, like Adama Traore, like when you're like even in training, like do you ever think like holy heck, like I'm actually training with these guys, because you're obviously used to seeing them on the TV and stuff playing in the Premier League every week. Like did that like I'm guessing how much did like that like hit you, like as like a younger guy looking up to these guys? Was it like holy crap, like I'm actually
that fantasy never changes. I remember like from the first day I signed, I was just walking through and peering into the gym, and you seeing all these players that you see on TV. You never think you'd be playing with them, let alone at the same building, same club as them. So yeah, that fantasy never wears off. Every time we're asked to train or called up to train with the first team, you see these faces, that they're not these big time players. They'll always come and say hello, good morning to us if we bump into them in the morning. So yeah, every single player is brilliant from that aspect of things as well.
So obviously you've had 3 loan spells: Ipswich, Hamilton, Scunthorpe. I feel like we've talked about them a lot. Now that you're in with the academy this season and you haven't gone on loan, what is that? Do you think that's benefited you a lot? Like just instead of traveling, like you said, when you knew you were going on Wednesday, you travelled on Thursday, you trained on Friday, then you started on Saturday. Yeah. Like, does it be nice just to like finally just stay in Wolverhampton for once and getting into like a good routine? How much has that helped?
Oh yeah, no, it's been brilliant. I've been able to form relationships here with players and make some really, really good friends that I haven't been able to in the past, just simply because a 3-week pre-season before, people go onto their various loans across the country. It's just not enough time to build a relationship with someone, whereas, being here and obviously rehabbing now with some specific lads, I'm with them every day, rehabbing in the gym, just being able to build those relationships that, and from, professional relationships into actual friendships, the longer you get to know each other. So from that aspect, yeah, it's been brilliant to have a bit of stability and things like
that. Obviously, Bruno, when you did start the season with Wolves this year, obviously Bruno Lage, don't know how to say his last name, but obviously he was the Wolves head coach, and now since then they've brought in like Julian Lopetegui. I've just wondered, since Lopetegui has came in, has he like spoken to you or any of the Wolves Academy lads? Has there just been any sort of dialogue with him? Has anything changed since he's come in with the academy, or is it still the same?
It's obviously, the 23s manager has his own personal control.
Oh, of course, yeah.
Type thing, but he's the gaffer's always, if I bump into him in the car park or in the morning and stuff like that, he's always saying good morning. Or he doesn't completely, cast off the younger players. He's not necessarily involved because that's obviously the 23s manager job and stuff like that. But when we're on the training pitch with stuff, he's not casting us aside like we're just mannequins and stuff there. We're actual players that he sees clearly. You can tell he just values and stuff like that.
Yeah, I was just asking that because I know sometimes managers, when they come in, they'll take a good look at their academy. The team is struggling or whatever, to see who they have. A couple of last questions now. When you were at Rochdale, you played with a certain someone called Jim McNulty, and I also saw some of that. How highly you rated him at Rochdale. Being such a young guy getting into the football game, was he like? Obviously, I know your dad helped loads, but was Jim like another like extra paternal figure, and how much did he help you in your career?
Jim was an angel to me. I've always I know if I needed something, I could pick up the phone right now and call Jim, and he'd give me honest 100% advice. And I kind of just got to know him because on my first away day, I didn't know really where to sit, so I kind of just sat at the front of the team bus, and that happened to be next to him. So we kind of got to know that way type thing. And from then on, he was like my dad in football. Like, he just put his arm around me. Obviously, he was a centre half as well, so we were spending a lot of time together as defenders and things like that. But yeah, I have so much respect, and I owe him so much for what he's done for me in the footballing world.
Yeah, and I also saw you also, I mean, he's at Everton now, but also saw that you rated Connor Cody a lot as well, who was at Wolves. So with you, is it always obviously you're a right back, and obviously a lot of communication is needed in defence with your centre half. Do you feel like that's just paramount to any successful team, just as long as you have a good, strong centre half who, he screams and shouts all the time, but at least he keeps you on your toes and that.
Like I said, characters like Connor Cody will completely change a dressing room on and off the pitch. He's like one of the most helpful people I've ever been with in football in terms of speaking. We'd be training as the 23s on the pitch next to him, and you can just hear Connor shouting and just talking throughout the whole entire training session. So from that aspect, it's always, not every team has a Connor Cody. That's why players like that are so valuable. But yeah, he's always he was top with academy players as well. Always speaking to us, always getting us involved in stuff, and never making sure anyone ever felt left out.
Good, that's cool. Last question. I always ask my guest this same question at the end all the time. Obviously, this podcast is called In 10 Years Time. Obviously you're 20 now. It's 2023 February. I was just wondering, imagine yourself in 10 years. It's 2033. You'd be 30 by that time. So I'm just wondering, in 10 years time, where would you like your career to be? What do you want to be doing in 10 years time?
In 10 years time, hopefully, touch wood, I'll still be playing football, and I will want to have been able to, look back at the past 10 years and I've had a successful career both on and off the pitch. I've enjoyed where I've played my football, whatever level that may be. I've enjoyed, the people I've met. I've still got friends for life. But I won't say, you know, there's a specific destination or a specific goal that I need to achieve. Otherwise, I failed in my career. As long as I'm happy and I've done my best and genuinely achieved the best that I feel I've possibly achieved, I'll be content, and I'll be over the moon and more than happy with that. So yeah, hopefully I'll still be playing and be able to look back at what I've done with a smile on my face.
Okay, good. Luke, thank you so much. You've been a great guest. Thanks for giving a bit of your time of your day for this. Yeah, hopefully see you get through the academy. Hopefully get you some Premier League minutes as well. I think that'd be excellent. I think the talent's definitely there. And yes, thanks so much again, man.
Thank you for having me. Appreciate it.
No problem.